Hopefully you can all see this. Very good. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm Thorsten Lauterbach from the law school up at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen. I've been teaching law there for a number of years, and today I really want to focus on online students and some of the things that I've been trialing with them in order to get a little bit more interaction and a bit more community feel for them. So the context is the online LLB that we launched in 2011. Initially, it was aimed at students in Scotland who can't come to university physically, so Highlands and Islands and maybe Lowlands and so on and so forth. But this has really taken on a much different feel. Lots of students, for a variety of reasons, can't come to university physically. We've got loads of students from Glasgow, for example, Edinburgh, who have family commitments, work commitments, care commitments. We've got international students now on the online LLB too. So it's a really varied cohort, different experiences. People who work in estate agencies or paralegals or are coming in from a science politics background, you name it, we've got it. So it's a fantastic cohort. There are many asynchronous activities, as you can imagine. The pre-recorded lectures that we give them. There are also discussion forum tasks for them to do on Moodle, which is more of a peer-to-peer thing. And then there are also some real-time synchronous tutorials, and that's pretty much the focus of this talk for the next few minutes, because I think that's where the magic tends to happen, at least in my experience. And for online students, I think it's really important that they have this interaction, the real-time interaction, both with themselves but also with us teachers. So. Don't want to moan too much about university senior management, because this is being recorded, but there have been changes here in our university, and some of you may recognize that from other institutions as well. We've had a lot of organizational structural changes to deal with. First of all, to the teaching semester, which was reduced, curtailed from 12 down to 10 weeks, which is wreaking havoc a little bit with regard to the time that we actually have to get to know our students and create a bond with them. There's the connect and reflect week in between, where we tend to draw breath and things like that. But it's also, of course, had changes to the teaching, learning and assessment. As such, for the online LLB modules, we used to have 5 tutorials. Now we have 4. Which is quite a significant, again, a curtailment. And we moved to this one summative assessment, all eggs in one basket, which I think makes more interaction even more important. So these are the institutional constraints that we live under. And I decided, well, this is all well and good. Let's ignore some of that red tape and just add interactions, because in my module in contract law, the first time I would see students would be in week 3. And I think by then, it's far too late to strike any bond or rapport with the students, especially when the semester is so short. So I upped the number of timetabled interactions in my module, and we start in week 1 with a module welcome, where every student gets a chance to introduce themselves, talk about their motivations, why the online LLB, why now, what are their backgrounds, and it also informs me, of course, who all the students are, which is great. So it gives me a really good idea who the cohort is. We also start the conversation about law a little bit, and then we move into those 4 substantive tutorials. The Connect and Reflect week, we have another get together per tutorial group as assessment clinics, to take some of the angst away from this one summative assessment. And we are using the substantive tutorials to really build into towards the assessment as well. So there are many safety nets, and it all comes from these real-time interactions. So as I said, all these sessions are organized by tutorial groups, so we'll have 10 to 12 students per group to maximize the participation opportunities for all students. We have a course welcome in September, but that's one session, 1 hour, at a random time in the week. But when we deal with different time zones, different commitments by students, it doesn't always work. And from my experience, when we schedule these engagements per tutorial group, it works much better. We get full attendance pretty much every week for whatever we are doing. Now, just a little bit on the pedagogic approach that I'm using, and I'm quite fond of the idea of responsive curriculum, even though I probably don't do it fully justice. But when I see, the many different professional and personal backgrounds of the online LLB students, they're all mature students. As I said, it would be a folly not to try to integrate some of their backgrounds and experience in all our activities, particularly in the tutorials, where we usually have per tutorial one problem-based scenario, which gets everybody talking. But then it draws really into the student experiences as well. That no week goes past where a student wouldn't say, "Oh, this has happened to me," or something similar. And that's how we dealt with, and with the problem in my law firm or in my work or wherever it was, or personally. And it helps us to start discussing, how we reach decisions, how we make decisions, what influences impact on it, and also some of the conscious and unconscious biases that impact on our decision making and judicial decision making. And it takes a little bit of I heard what Anne was saying just now. The students searching for or wanting the right answer, the one answer, which is of course elusive. But law students are even worse. They want to have the right answer, but there isn't one. There's maybe a plausible one and perhaps less plausible ones, and so on. So all of these things help us to free up, throw off the shackles a little bit, if you like, and get students discussing. And they notice that they all have something to bring to the table. This idea of the T-shaped skills development, because nobody comes to the class without any sort of skills or experiences. So they see that what they've got already, the knowledge that they've got, experiences, it's really worthwhile, and it adds value to the discussions in those tutorials. And as I said, the reflection is really the key in those tutorials as well, and it adds a little bit of a flavor of deliberative practice. Probably well known in health sciences and so on. Fairly new perhaps in law, but we try to bring that in. And especially when the law is all about, legal decision making is all about being objective and being reasonable. When we've got hundreds of biases impacting on our decision making, who is this reasonable person? What does objectivity mean? And how can we then engage with some of the court decisions where some of which do not really make sense quite often. So all of these things help to engage the students and to really blow life into these tutorials. And the student feedback has been really strong. Don't want to read all these things out to you. You see they notice that their views are valued, and that whoever the teacher is interested in what they've got to say. Somebody cares. The safe space in the tutorial, which is so important, especially for online students. All cameras are always on, I have to say as well. Sometimes, there's an issue, and that's okay as well. But by and large, everybody's there, visual. Put me at ease, says a student as well. The extra sessions. And then, we have a really powerful one there at the bottom, which, a student who would not normally want to engage found a way to engage as well. And I've thought that is really quite powerful. So just to round off, perhaps, I think from my perspective, the impact on the mental and social well-being, the learning experience for the students, but also from my experience as a teacher has been second to none. It's been quite immense, and it's worth, from my perspective, to invest time to get to know the students, and the students to get to know me a little bit as well in this online forum. And this helped me to build this bond of mutual trust and respect, if you like, as well, and the eagerness to contribute where I'm really acting as a facilitator of a discussion rather than, the guy who pulls the cart along and tries to get a discussion going. This really works a treat, because even the most reluctant learners, become enthusiastic. And they're all looking forward to tutorials. Don't get that so much in the daytime, have to say, with regard to the daytime students, but different issues there. It's probably another talk, another time. And it's all about developing the learner's confidence based on their prior experiences, tease out that knowledge that they have and the experiences they bring to the table. And that helps us to build this fabulous online learning community at a time when time is really of the essence. We don't have many interactions, so we need to make every one of those counts. And what the university likes, and our head of law likes, the students do better as well. As a result, in this new world of a one summative assessment component. So it all seems to go into the right the direction. But without these extra sessions, I don't think we would be able to do that. So let's just avoid not to join the race to the bottom and give students less, especially online students. They need more. They need more of us. They need more a real-time interaction if we can give it to them, and they lap it up and they enjoy it, and they get so much more out of their learning experience as they otherwise would. Thank you very much.
Wow, I'm loving this. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Thorsten. Just look at all of those reactions. Just sums it up really. And I'm loving all of the comments coming in. It's just really great. We are very tight for time. I just wanted to ask one quick question, if that's okay. And if you do have a question, please stick it in the chat, and Thorsten will kind of take a look at that, or we'll make sure that you get a response at some point. But one question I have is, how do you manage the workload when you're kind of arranging these extra sessions on top of everything that you're already doing? Everyone's so busy. Now, yeah. I completely agree with what you're doing, but how did you manage that?
I just put my heart and soul into this. I have to say, when we launched this in 2011 and they said, Thorsten, would you want to do contract law for the online students? I thought, I don't want to touch this with a barge pole. Online and recording and so on. No, that's not my beer. But really, I get so much out of it. And I know that, unless I meet the students early, I just won't get that spark. So I'm quite happy to invest that extra time, I have to admit, and it's timetabled, and that's then part of my workload to be honest as well. So I'm not shortchanging anybody anywhere else, but it is tricky, especially since some of these classes are evening classes, and I've got family, 3 boys and all that sort of stuff. So of course there's an impact, but since it's only 5 weeks, that where I really see them, I think it's worth going the extra mile just to get that flavor and get that engagement and student satisfaction. And to be honest, my social and mental well-being is impacted upon as well. It just makes, the adrenaline is in free flow, during these sessions, and I wouldn't want to miss it. So the more I can give them, the better for me as well, I have to say. Sounds a bit trite, but it's really quite cool how it all works out there.
I'm getting your feel-good vibes. It's great. And your institution are very lucky to have you. So yeah, keep up the great work. Really, it's great stuff.